There, my fellow cultists and others who happen to come upon this video in the year 2012. You can see this video is in black and white. The reason being, it was filmed in 1960 that I am taping this and sending it out into the future is for a while I was using my occult powers to seek into a network that was founded until the 21st century, a network of mystical power and knowledge that is named by the sorcerers that founded as YouTube. Through that mystical network, I have heard of this, that I am not the only one in the world that is trying to conquer the world or seek its power. In fact, there is another group which I heard was called the Illuminati, and they, like me, are planning on bringing about an antichrist or moonchild. For me to take over the world and bring about an antichrist or moonchild before they do, I must review and analyze the videos that speak of them. Videos, documentaries they call them. Our first documentary video on YouTube, our first documentary video that is found on this mystical network called YouTube is Hollywood Insiders, Dark Stars. This will be a first on my class to learn about this Illuminati and learn what their plans are and what is this New World Order.
People everywhere have discovered that there's a bit more to the symbols around them. An unseen force steering the world, leaving its mark every place it touches.
That's right. You're one of the few people outside of the Illuminati who knows this secret.
But if bound to material and reason alone, the logical mind immediately sees symbolism's big flaw. Take these, for instance. The countless pictures of politicians and various other celebrities throwing up what appears to be satanic gang signs.
Oh, it could mean that they are
Crab people, crab people, crab people.
Think of it. Crabs only have 2 fingers.
Now, if you think these pictures are all coincidence, I want you to turn off this video and go watch TV. Of course, this begs the question, surely the elite have better ways of identifying themselves to each other? Strategically speaking, hidden in plain sight doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why not lies in plain sight and leave the truth completely undocumented? Them to respond in a pre-programmed way to similar future events. Typically, there's a crisis, and that crisis, by the end of the movie, is resolved using certain means. When that event occurs in real life, the individual, although knowing this is real life as opposed to a movie, is inclined to respond similar to those who had been seen succeeding in the movie. You hear it all the time when somebody says, it's just like this movie or that movie, so it definitely has its effect.
So long, boys!
Then there's hidden in plain sight, the more mysterious of the two motives. It involves putting symbols and messages out there, encrypted in such a way so that, if you're not looking for them, the meaning will fall below the threshold of your notice.
There's that one time when I saw a symbol on my penis. The doctor claims that it was an early sign of cancer, but we all know that doctors are part of the Illuminati conspiracy too.
Happy Feet is basically a retarded kids movie where a bunch of penguins seize upon every excuse possible to start dancing. First they dance, then they alienate the star of the movie, then they dance, then they find out their fish is disappearing, more dancing, then they find out the evil humans are destroying their environment, throw in some dancing, then they rebuild the Tower of Babel while dancing.
As a main figure in occult studies, I know that dancing penguins represent the penis in the vagina when they mutilate, if you know what I am catching. So, Happy Feet could be a ritual orgy disguise of a kid's film, if you think about it.
And then the evil humans find out about the starving penguins and what they're doing to the environment.
So what's the problem? Well, among other things, we are messing with their food chain.
And we have got to do something about it. We suggest a ban on all marine harvesting.
UN gets involved. Meanwhile, in Penguin Land, more dancing, and alas, fish aplenty. So when the little slave larva is faced with a crisis, such as an environmental one, the first thing they'll think of is, this is a job for world government. I've seen it work before, somewhere. Rigging large financial buildings with explosives. Now this is hidden in plain sight because the World Trade Center was brought down in a similar fashion, but it's predictive programming because it lends itself to the idea that such an act against a financial center was the work of extremists rather than the authorities. 300 is an excellent example of predictive programming.
Of course you know what I mean. Hint the word gay.
And hidden in plain sight if you have the right eyes. First you have the King of Sparta, and an alternate history of Greece where shirts are illegal and all of Asia is sending its hordes of soldiers. You have the ruler of Persia, a black guy for some reason.
He looks suspiciously similar to Obama. Maybe the producers of 300 foresee the destruction of Obama's presidency and made this movie to warn us about it.
The king is defeated. Now it's no secret that the New World Order wants to move into Asia, but naturally it will face hordes of enemy soldiers. So it helps to have it implanted in the minds of people that a superior few can stand against the many.
Because when you think of 300, you think of carrying agents. Like that one time when I saw 300, I totally killed the Asian guy sitting in front of me.
John Carpenter's They Live starts off with Roddy Piper emerging from train tracks or a train station. If you've seen my first documentary, Hollywood Insider's Fallen Angels, you'll know that trains are symbolic for interdimensional travel.
Or maybe trains imposed to represent blowjobs. Think of it. Train, penis. Railway tunnel, girl's mouth.
Roddy first just tries to get by in his new life, but eventually his curiosity would get the better of him. Soon he would realize that the world he lived in was false, and that there's non-human beings masquerading as ordinary people. He then tries to bring in his new, rather reluctant friend into this knowledge. They both set out to undo this conspiracy, eventually succeeding in a sacrificial way. This is an instance of hidden in plain sight, an uncomfortable truth mixed in with trivia and displayed to the masses. But this story of the quote-unquote vampire hunter is common, so if John Carpenter was making a savior out of Roddy, then it also is predictive programming. In The Matrix, a messiah-like character called Neo learns his world is an illusion, and there's a war happening behind the scenes. After much trial and discovery, he eventually finds out he's the chosen one and defeats the machines. From a hidden in plain sight perspective, it reveals that the world the masses live in is imaginary. From a predictive programming point of view, it propagates the savior angle, the chosen one who will save humanity and undo the conspiracy. The Man Who Would Be King is the Illuminati's favorite story, hands down.
Maybe because it stars Sam Connery. Rumor has it that he could do really good blowjobs at the Paraven Grove.
It tells the story of two Englishmen who go off to a distant primitive country intending on returning with loads of gold. When they arrive, they are mistaken for divine beings, rule, and eventually revealed to be only human and are punished. Since its only message is that the next one to arrive claiming to be God is a fraud.
Wait. The Illuminati want us to believe in the Messiah, but don't want us to believe in the Messiah. So the Illuminati is sending out mixed signals.
As synchronicities go, the most puzzling involve the terrorist attack on 9/11. Now, statistically speaking, some of these have to be coincidences, but others violate the odds outright. Over and over again, 9/11 appeared in everything from movies to comic books. And what about
I'm so glad that you could join us today for this Wednesday, July 25th, 2001 broadcast. And I'm going to put the call out that you call the White House and tell them, look, we've seen the news stories that you've wanted to blow things up, that you...
No, what are your predictions for 2009?
Well, I appreciate your call, Joe. Let me answer those, and I'm glad somebody finally brought up the points I've been asking listeners. So I guess I'll start it off. I think you're going to see intensified friction and I'd say 80% chance some cross-border incursions in the Kashmir region between India and Pakistan, and it could turn into full-blown war between the two nations. I'd say that's a 30-40% chance. I believe you're going to see more escalations between the United States, NATO, and Russia with more U.S. forces, when you say U.S., globalist forces, Anglo-American forces, moving in to encircle Russia. You're going to see more tyranny, more crackdowns on free speech in Russia. You're going to see new restrictions and control over the Internet. I think you're going to see major Internet outages in 2009, which then the government will offer a solution of Internet 2, as the way to fix the problem they created. I believe that we will see hyperinflation accelerate. So we'll have a dead economy. I mean, literally, it's dead. Dead Main Street with an overlay of hyperinflation in certain sectors as the big private central banks buy up raw infrastructure. And so I think you're going to see sit-ins that are going to end up getting violent with police in major factory cities. And I believe by the end of 2009, you may see full-scale riots in U.S. cities. I'd say a 70% chance of that. And it's virtually, if things continue along the globalist plan, 100% by 2011. Barack Obama will bring forward a carbon tax. He will declare carbon dioxide a toxic waste. He will have a $700 million bailout package for the public, but that will only be select payoffs to crony cities, counties, and states to pay for federal unfunded mandates, which will further federalize things. I believe you will see Israel off and on continue to bombard and squeeze the Gaza Strip, which they've had under siege for years. I believe you will probably see more bombardments into southern Lebanon again against Hezbollah. I believe, it's easy predictions. We've seen a 500% increase in piracy. I believe we'll see another 500% increase in piracy in 2009 worldwide. I predict that by the end of next year, they always do it about a year and a half late, you will see crime statistics for 2008 showing a 25% on average or higher increase in violent crime and robberies. And then by 2010, we're going to get 2009 numbers. There will be a 100% increase in crime. You will see increasing draconian actions with U.S. Army and Marines running warrantless checkpoints on U.S. highways, as are going on in California right now. in San Bernardino and other areas. You will see a flaunting of the police state. You'll see the propaganda intensify, worshiping the police state on the news. It's not going to be pretty. I can make a lot of other predictions, but I'd like to hear your predictions.
Do you have any idea what this means?
You're saying our government plans to commit a terrorist act against a domestic airline?
There you go. Indicting the entire government as usual.
The World Trade Center. I'm going to crash the plane into the World Trade Center.
The lone gunman ran in 2001.
That's right. 2000. It was a mid-season replacement, so oh yeah, right, 2001. We shot in 2000, January 2001. We started airing.
When did you shoot the episode with the government secretly hijacking a jet by remote control to fly to the World Trade Center?
Yeah, that we shot in March of 2000.
On the morning of September 11th, 2001, you see a plot from the TV show you were in, to some extent, coming through.
Tell the thing that I had heard, that this goes back before even Lionel Chetwin, that Chris Carter was at a cocktail party, and he felt very out of place, and apparently he was in a tuxedo away in the corner, and this psychic came over to him and said, whatever you're working on is going to make you a ton of money. And that was just before he did the X-Files. Well, that psychic I talked to, I go, what were you doing at the Hollywood party? She goes, I was hired by the CIA to go to parties and then just go home and email what I talked about at people. So the CIA has been tracking Hollywood parties since the 80s in order to determine, because, you know, Hollywood films
They set the agenda.
They set a foreign policy, sort of. I mean,
no, it's a projection. It's America's dominance. They admit as long as Hollywood.
Right. And so they want to make sure that all the producers and the writers, that nobody's thinking anything so radical or doing a movie that will completely undermine their foreign policy plans.
This is Steve Jackson's card game, Illuminati, the game of conspiracy. From beginning to end, this deck reeks of insider info. The final goal of the game is, yep, you guessed it,
try to take over the world.
But a deeper look reveals that there's not a single card in the deck that hasn't happened, isn't happening, or won't happen.
Where it happens very often with us. Heavy metal's most popular group, Metallica, and a copy of Motorhead's Prince make it clear as just to whom they have given their souls.
Hey, this is the one documentary.
Kurt Cobain desecrated churches by scrawling.
He once was a lord in every house gathered to.
I hate that cat.
Hey, kids!
So, the human that are making the videos telling the truth about the Negro.
Worst YouTube video ever. Want this guy to stop making videos.
Been on for to keep this up. We want to.
George Lucas's Star Wars is another perfect example where not only have the characters been yanked out of real life, but the heroes and villains have been
There we go. Back to the horrible insanity day.
Reversed. Take, for instance, Darth Vader, formerly Anakin Skywalker. This guy comes closer to Jesus Christ than any other non-Jesus character in the history of film. He was immaculately conceived, found by a wise man by the will of a supernatural force, declared the chosen one, prophesied to come, powerful magical abilities, wants to preserve life with his magical abilities, rejected by the temple leaders, storms the temple, becomes the leader of a large army, puts down a rebellion. If you're not with him, you're against him, and had a Swedish woman named Pernilla August play as your mother in a movie made in 1999. Pretty clear where George was going with this character. But it's not just Vader, Yoda too.
According to the Masonic reference works that you can get in any library, the the Freemasonic Orders of Europe said that there was a little ideologue, a little spiritual entity that gave the knowledge to what the Masons call our hidden masters. That's what Freemasonry refers to, those who lead world Freemasonry. They don't know who they are. No Freemason knows who the actual leaders of the world organization are. They call them our hidden masters. Well, according to the reference works, there is a little spiritual entity that guides the world Freemasonry, and they call him Yoda. And in the reference works, you'll see this little creature with the pointed ears, and he's called Yota. Yota goes back to Judah, or Judah, which goes back into British Israel World Freemasonry, going back to the time of the founding of England.
I'm serial. I'm super serial.
Now look at all the time it took me to convince you of all this.
Thank you for convincing me that you're a total retard. Thank you very much.
Now watch Hollywood tell you what I just did in 40 seconds.
Liberals must launch our plan for socialist domination immediately. Listen closely, comrades. I've received word from General Soros and our partners in the UN. Operation Streisand is a go. Marcos Militsis, you and your Daily Kos-controlled army of gay Mexican day laborers will join forces with Michael Moore's Prius tank division. North of Branson, where you will seize the guns of everyone who doesn't blame America first, forcing them into the FEMA concentration camps. That's where Acorn and I will re-educate them as atheists and declare victory in the war on Christmas.
Now, my fellow Carters, what information have we learned from this documentary? First, the correct made all the praise crap together and make it seem that it is connected or put together by a water controlling entity. Second, that the Illuminati is not real and more probably a imaginary entity created by the simple minded to explain the world around them. But there is still a sense, even with the crap we've seen in this documentary, that the Illuminati exist. And so, this will be only the force we will see. Next, we will see what the great and faithful Neo-Lamacon have in common with the Matrix.